All right, I think we should get into it. So let's do a couple of introductions. So hi guys, I'm Acro Zen if you will, or Ari to most of you. This is my wife Nancy. Nancy Squats on all social media. We are going to be discussing Nancy's contest prep and her post-show analysis. So Nancy just competed in a wellness show, and I coached her, which was very interesting and different for both of us. And we wanted to go over her whole show, but even go further back and talk about how she got into lifting and how she got into her style of training initially, and then why she chose wellness for her first show. So I guess we'll just get into it. So why don't you introduce yourself a little bit more?
Yeah, so you kind of introduced me. So I am Acra's wife. My name is Nancy. I am 37 years old. Originally from Las Vegas, Nevada. I was going to say West Coast, but it's technically not the West Coast. But yeah, you get it. Let's see, what else can I say about me? I don't know. Yeah, I just finished my first contest prep for bodybuilding. I have a background in strength training, weightlifting specifically, Olympic weightlifting. I also did CrossFit, also did regular strength training before that. Started off doing martial arts as a kid. My dad is a Taekwondo grandmaster, and he dragged me to Taekwondo when I was little. So from the age of 4 to 16, I did martial arts.
To your chagrin, I mean,
Yeah.
I think you probably enjoyed it a little bit at one point, but I'm gonna fix this for you. But yeah.
Yeah, so I've been competing in sports since I was like really young. So I've always been kind of like competitive in a way. But oh yeah, so my dad put me in Taekwondo and he pushed me pretty hard. So that kind of goes into our dynamic a little bit, so I guess we'll talk about that.
She got daddy issues. No.
That's a whole different story, but kind of, sort of.
Yeah, so you had a background like in some athletics, right? Martial arts and stuff like that. Your dad kind of pushed it on you. So you always had kind of like this background with some physical activity, and I think you mentioned to me, and we've talked about this before, you had knew about dieting and getting into like dieting since you were like an early teen because you wanted abs or something. You had like an obsession with abs or like a certain look.
No.
Oh.
Not abs, no. Okay, so...
Just being skinny, I guess.
Yeah, so, growing up, watching like Victoria's Secret models and stuff like that as a kid, and I think a lot of people can relate. In the early 90s, that was like a big thing, well, for a lot of girls. And so I thought the look that I wanted was to be supermodel thin. So, and I was always on the heavier side as a kid. My thing is comfort food. When I'm stressed out, the first thing I'll do is grab something delicious and overeat to deal with my feelings. So that has been a thing since I was like very little. So growing up, I was always the chubby kid.
Yeah, and that plays a part a little bit later in the story too. So
yeah, I've always
keep that
been
in mind.
A little bit overweight for a lot of my life. I've been overweight. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even doing like a lot of physical activity because I overate as a kid, I couldn't keep up with the food I was eating.
Would you say early on you would be like more of a yo-yo dieter? Like you kind of understood?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, so yeah, when I was a teen, I learned how to eat at a caloric deficit.
Deficit, yeah.
Yeah, at a caloric deficit as like I've been dieting like that since I've been 12.
Yeah.
Back and forth. So I knew how to lose weight, and then I would gain it back. Lose weight, gain it back, even more weight. It's just, tons of yo-yo dieting over the years. So I was pretty good at knowing how to do it, just couldn't stay consistent.
So there's always been like this little bit of interest in dieting to look a certain way, but also a bit of interest in like physical activity. So during this time, like as you grew older, like we don't have to go through every little phase, but like let's say as you got into your early 20s, when I think you started getting into CrossFit, right? Is that what happened?
Yeah. So I got my first gym membership, and I started lifting weights when I was 18. Just going to like commercial gyms, like 24-hour fitness, just messing around, right? Not doing anything crazy. But when I was in my early 20s, I was working. Another thing is I have a long background in healthcare, and I used to be a respiratory therapist. So I was working at a hospital, and one of my coworkers said that she signed up for a Groupon for CrossFit. And she was asking me if I wanted to join her because she didn't want to go by herself. And I was like, what the hell is CrossFit? She was explaining it to me, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of interested. So we went together, and that's how I got into CrossFit, just like randomly. Mm-hmm. But I always was like into working out, so she thought I would be interested, and I was. Yeah, that's how I got into CrossFit in 2013.
So CrossFit evolved, like, I don't think you were super into dieting then. You probably were still yo-yoing a bit, but at the same time, it was like more about performing the movements and the workouts, right? And performance.
Both.
Okay.
So that is when, so I've been through a lot of dieting phases through my life. I've done all the fad diets. So in CrossFit, a big thing back in 2013 was paleo, the caveman diet. So that's when I was eating cleaner foods, but I was not eating in a caloric deficit. I was eating for performance and eating what a lot of people would say is healthier, less processed foods. So that's what I was doing during CrossFit days.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then as you were doing CrossFit, you fell in love with the Olympic weightlifting style. Mm-hmm. It was less about the CrossFit stuff, even though I think you were enjoying some of the cardio. I think you were getting more into the technical aspect of Olympic weightlifting. So talk us through like how you kind of went into Olympic weightlifting realm, because I think that is ultimately what built your legs to get you to think about doing the wellness side. So walk us through that a little bit.
So with CrossFit, if you guys are not familiar, it's like doing all sorts of different exercises in a workout of the day. So there's cardio involved, there's lifting involved, but what I gravitated towards was Olympic weightlifting and even the powerlifting movements. But what really stuck out to me was snatches. So after CrossFit class, they would have open gym, and I would just work on the snatches all the time. And I made some friends at CrossFit, and one of my good friends, she knew that I was really interested in these movements. So she said, there's an Olympic weightlifting gym that I'm interested in. So another friend asked me if I would join her in getting into an Olympic weightlifting class. She didn't want to go by herself, right. A different friend. So I said, okay, let's go. So that's when we went to Average Bros Gymnasium in Las Vegas. John Bros was my coach for a number of years. Yeah, so that's how I got into Olympic weightlifting.
John Bros is actually a pretty big name, I guess, in Olympic weightlifting. Still is. But a lot of people know of him, and it was actually really interesting because this is before I met Nancy. I guess you were going there for a few years before we met.
Yeah.
But, I know you were going there, and I'll pull up
We met in 2015.
Some photos of you. So I don't know where you want me to start. Should I pull up? Let's pull up this guy.
Oh, this is CrossFit. This is when I did CrossFit. This is one of the WODs. I did.
Yeah.
This is 2013. I was in my my mid 20s, early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. This is, yeah, but yeah.
So this is like
Kind of cringe because, like,
see your
I'm sure a
form and
lot of
stuff.
CrossFitters watching this are like, oh my gosh, she's doing it all wrong. But yeah, I was bad at CrossFit.
I mean,
I tried. I was really into it.
but it got you into doing the Olympic weightlifting, which ultimately led you down the path of doing what you did recently, which was the wellness show.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I guess this is like a good glimpse, a little bit of a glimpse of like where Nancy was at mentally and like physically, and here she is with her coach. That's John. This is
a funny picture. So this was like my second or third competition, and this was weightlifting meet in California. So we all took a road trip to California, and this is the first time I think he coached me through my first competition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
he was, yeah.
So you had done a few shows like initially, and you enjoyed it, right? It looks like you had a pretty good outcome. This is like what was this one, like a nationals or something like that?
This was my one national Olympic weightlifting competition.
Yeah.
So this is with John. This was in 2018 or 2019. But yeah. So I ended up doing, if I remember correctly, like 7 or 8 Olympic weightlifting competitions. I'm obsessed with competing. That's what drives me is competition.
Which I think is why you were so motivated and so driven during this prep, which we'll get into. But I just want to talk about this stuff initially because it is actually very good, I think, for people to understand where you came from, to understand how you built the legs you built for the wellness category. So
that's funny.
What I notice is specifically with Nancy, her name's Nancy Squats for a reason. It's because she was obsessed with the Olympic weightlifting movements, and in there, specifically John had pushed for this thing called Squat Every Day, and it was actually on like T Nation. He had an article and stuff. And
Bodybuilding.com also put up a program.
I actually
for him.
remembered it before I even met her, and I kind of knew who John Bros was, which was very interesting. I thought it was kind of cool that she trained with him, and she was doing this squat program. So she was doing, I don't know if you were squatting every day, but you were squatting very frequently.
For
front squats, back squats.
I want to say about 6 months straight. I squatted every day.
Yeah. So she had built up some crazy quads. Now, people with different biomechanics or different forms favor and bias certain parts of their body. And she specifically, when she squats, squatted with such form that basically negated any hamstring or glute movement. It was very minimal. She was very much like on her toes. She would push through. And if you ever see her form when she's squatting, I don't even know if you have a squat in here.
I have, that's a squat, but this is
when I was like trying to fix her form.
Trying to fix it.
This might have been when I was trying to fix her form for more bodybuilding.
So that's 2017 when.
But you can see, you can kind of see she does have like a shift into the front. So this is kind of like where her quad dominance resides. And this is kind of how she built the legs she built, right? So I think for a while, specifically when we first met, we had this idea that you potentially could do a show because we met and you knew that I had done a men's physique show or a couple men's physique shows. But I don't know if that ever was a, like something that you thought of that, I want to do one of those too when we first met. Talk about that a little bit. Because I remember you had said that early on it was a thought, but not something you were ready to commit to because of the way you ate and things like that.
Okay, so didn't know a ton about bodybuilding when we first met. I knew of, actually, no, I take that back. Before we met, I was in a previous relationship where we would watch the Olympia and stuff. So I was a little familiar with bodybuilding, and I was reading on stuff on bodybuilding.com. But when we met and you told me, or I found out because I think even on your dating profile, because we met online on a dating app a long time ago. So you told me that you did a couple bodybuilding shows. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Like I wanted to be with somebody that was into fitness. So when we got together, like you were really into bodybuilding still, but you had a back injury. At the time it was pretty bad, but I started getting more interested in it. And yeah, I threw the idea out there that I wanted to do a bodybuilding show like 8 years ago. We were making content. Yeah,
we had started making content. I had gotten you starting to do more of the bodybuilding style workouts, and you were like vlogging it.
Yeah, so it's funny because when we first started dating, I found out he had a YouTube, and I did some investigating. And I looked at all of his YouTube videos and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then we got together and I was like, okay, I want to start making YouTube content. So I started a fitness vlog and I threw out there that I maybe wanted to do a bodybuilding show. And I already knew how to count macros and stuff like that. But I was like trying to do the thing. Mm-hmm. Right? Like in, what was it, 2016, 2017,
yeah,
something like that.
I don't know if you put up any clips of you specifically doing that type of stuff, but
no,
it exists on a hidden YouTube somewhere.
It might be on the YouTube channel. I think I might have put one video up. But anyways,
here's like a spot from like when we were kind of doing that stuff. We were at that small gym and you were practicing some bodybuilding movements, bench pressing and stuff.
Yeah, so this was a time where I was taking a little break from Olympic weightlifting, and I was thinking, oh, I'm going to do like powerlifting, body building. That didn't work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like short-lived. I couldn't stick to a diet. I worked night shift, and I'm not saying that it's impossible to diet on a night shift, but it was very hard because I still give into peer pressure. So working, I guess any work environment where there's a lot of people, there's potlucks, and then there's people who want to, share food with you and stuff. And like, I just couldn't say no.
Right.
So I started dieting and then I fell off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we were doing a lot of, social events.
Yeah, we were doing a lot of social events. We were going out with friends
eating,
all the time.
We were drinking
pizza,
all the time.
Yeah.
And I always overeat. I always go overboard.
And I wasn't in a competitive mindset to do another show, and I don't think
we both kind of gained a lot of weight in our honeymoon phase. Yeah.
But yeah, I think back then specifically, like, we had all these good intentions for lifting, and we still did that, but eventually we started moving around. We went to Los Alamos, we left during the pandemic.
Yeah.
You traveled for work, you were still doing RT, which is a very stressful job, which led you to, kind of eating a bit more and not really focusing on anything fitness related. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until we actually moved here and took on Ben's full-time care that you were able to actually focus in and really consider doing a show. Mm-hmm. So now that we're fast forwarding a little bit, we'll talk a little bit about my brother, Ben, he's a big part of our life, a huge part of our life. And he is actually one of the main reasons why Nancy, I believe, was able to do this show. I don't think you would have had the opportunity without Ben. So I'll pull up a photo of Ben.
For me, timing is everything. I was always saying to myself, like, I could get in shape and I could look a certain way and like actually commit to something if my lifestyle was like perfect. And I know that sounds kind of lame, but I was like, okay, if I didn't work night shift and I could be on a schedule, where I lived like a mostly normal lifestyle, like I can actually do it. Mm-hmm. And we got that opportunity when we moved out here to take care of your brother, Ben. So I was able to quit my job as a traveling respiratory therapist. I found a job out here, and I was able to quit when we found out that we can be full-time caregivers for him.
Yeah, we can take on his caregiving, and
that was a surprise.
We both can just focus on that basically full time.
Yeah. So if you guys are not familiar, Ari's younger brother Ben has leukodystrophy. He is a quadriplegic. He wasn't always. He is nonverbal. He needs total care. He literally cannot do anything for himself. He needs to be bathed. He needs to be fed by somebody else.
Yeah, he's right above us right now, and we actually have a camera on him.
If you guys are wondering, yeah,
so,
eyes are always on him.
Eyes are always on Ben. So we have a camera here. Like he's always within distance of us. So,
but yeah. So we moved out here just to. I mean, let me go back. So I found a temporary job out here. And we were just going to visit for a few months. Mm-hmm. That was the plan, just to visit him, hang out with some family, and then go on to the next job because I was a traveling respiratory therapist. We found out that, we didn't realize how much he needed our help. So we decided to buy our first home together because it wasn't your first house, but it was my first house. But together, it was our first home. We decided to buy a home out here. That wasn't the original plan at all.
No, we were going to buy a house in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, we were going to move somewhere completely different, but things changed for the better.
Yeah.
So we ended up buying our first home here. I was still working at this hospital, and then the opportunity came up to where we found out that we were already taking care of Ben while we were both working. Go ahead.
Yeah, just go back. So we renovated a house for Ben. We bought a house, renovated it for him, and we were just going to make it a place for him to come over on the weekends, just to give him more opportunity to get out of his element, where he was before, which wasn't the best place for hhim. And we gave him the opportunity to say, hey, if you want to stay with us full time, you can. And after he stayed here for a couple of weekends, he just made the decision to stay here. So we made sure it was very comfortable for him here. So that way, if he did want to live here, he could. And he made that choice. And then after he lived here, for a month or two, we found out we can become his full-time caregivers. And we pushed for that. Nancy was still working at the hospital. I was still working for my job. And we were taking on Ben's care at the same time. And then after a little while, we were able to quit our jobs. And we were able to just take care of Ben and, focus on whatever we want to focus on with Ben. We're trying to do more stuff now with it, and that stuff is to be seen on this channel and other places. But right now, we're taking care of Ben. We were taking care of Ben back then, and it allowed us to do more stuff. So I think it allowed you to kind of have less stress in a hospital environment. This is a different kind of stress, obviously. But less stress in a hospital environment for you to kind of release, all that stuff and feel good about actually doing a prep, because eventually you did decide, hey, I think I could do a show after having a little bit more of that breathing room.
Yeah, so basically, since Ben lives with us, I work from home. Never could have imagined being a healthcare worker working from home. I was like, man, this is a freaking dream right now. Best job I've ever had. Ben is literally the best patient anybody can ask for.
He's your best friend, remember?
He's my best friend, my best patient, he's just amazing. He makes my life so much easier, in so many ways. He requires a lot of work, a lot of care, but it's so freaking worth it because I've never been happier. It's not even it doesn't even feel like work. It's I would do the we were doing it anyway, but it was oh man, this is it's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't have to stress about going outside of the house to do work. So anyways, it put me in a perfect place to do a prep. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why not?
So I was, so just to get back into it, so you had done a little bit of streaming. We were doing bodybuilding stuff on Twitch like we do here. And, I think you saw, we did the transformation challenge last year for APE. And I think a lot of that stuff kind of set you up to make the decision to do wellness. I know you like had thought wellness or bikini, like you liked the idea of competing, but then you saw like, you know, other people were prepping for a show or people were just starting to look a certain way, and you thought to yourself, what, you could possibly do this, right? So walk us through the actual decision making for doing a wellness show. Like what sparked it in your head that you wanted to do a wellness show?
So, I guess going back, like, I was off social media. Like, I wasn't like paying attention to like bodybuilding or bodybuilders for a while, during like COVID times and like while we were traveling for my job and stuff. So in 2022 or something, I was like on Instagram and I wanted to get back into lifting and losing weight again and stuff. I came across wellness on like Instagram and I was like, what is this? And it's been around since 2020 in the NPC. So I was like, this is crazy. What is this? This is like not figure. This is not bikini. Because like those were the two divisions that I thought I was going to do like 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I saw this and I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. Not like I could work towards this. This is something that like, this is a physique that I want to build for myself. So that's how I got excited about wellness. And then you were streaming on Twitch. And shout out to Metal Megs.
That's right, yeah.
She
Megs.
did her
Joe
first
workouts too.
Yeah, she did her first wellness bodybuilding prep that same year. So I watched her go through it, and I thought that was really cool. Joe Workouts did a bikini prep. Yep. That same year, I believe, too, and she killed it. So I was like, oh man, like, yeah, there's girls in the Twitch community that are into bodybuilding, because when I used to stream fitness the first time, because I've been back to streaming like 3 times now. Yeah. The first time was in 2018. Yeah. And there was girl fitness streamers, but there wasn't a lot of bodybuilding chicks back then. There were a few, but not like now. So anyways, I got excited, and then I threw the idea. We were doing the Zenbro Classic. Right. And we were prepping for that, or preparing for that. We wanted to do that. And then,
one of the aspects of the Zenbro Classic is not just we do transformation challenges, and it's called the Ape Classic now. It was the Zenbro when I was doing it just on this channel, but we have a new community called Aesthetic Physique Enthusiast. There's an Instagram, there's a website. We'll post it in the links and stuff, so make sure you check it out. But we were doing the Zenbro Classic. It was a transformation challenge and a bodybuilding showcase where we invited people from our community. It was like 50 or so people to try the posing routines. So we did a couple posing seminars. We taught people how to pose, and then we said, hey, put together your own little routine, and then we'll put the video up for the classic, you know, for the showcase. And that was really fun. And we had a lot of submissions, and it was a good time. And you submitted for that too. So that was like your first little experiment with cutting for wellness, right?
Yeah. So I remember correctly, I threw the idea out that like maybe I want to do a wellness show, and we talked about it, and you said, why don't you cut and see what you look like and then go from there. And then because I was on the fence between bikini and wellness, because I knew I didn't have the wellness legs yet.
So let's just pause there for a second, and let's just show you at your biggest, right? Just to showcase like a little bit of your transformation. Okay, so here's Nancy at her biggest. Okay, this is when we were still in Vegas, but it's still kind of...
Okay, so this is the most I have ever weighed. So for reference, I'm probably shrinking. I was probably 5'1", 5'2", maybe. 100 and... Close to 160 pounds. Yeah. Maybe it was in the high 150s. So being a short girl and not a lot of muscle, that was the heaviest I weighed. Yeah. We were eating good.
But you had a before photo before. I'll go back. So I'll show you at your leanest in a second, but I'll go to the other before photo. So when you started your cut for the Zenbro, I believe you were around this point. This was your before.
So this was not
Or was
the
this-
Zen Bro yet. So
Okay.
this was when I discovered wellness.
Okay, so this is around when you discovered wellness.
This was probably summer of 2022. That was summer 2022.
Okay.
And that's when I wanted to
Give it a shot.
give it a
Because
shot.
She had bought the bikini and she had given it a shot, and
So yeah,
it was kind of eye opening because
I wanted
though
to
you had the
show-
legs, it was the glutes that was the thing that we need to grow.
I wanted to show this. This is okay. So if I was to give advice to some people out there that are thinking about transforming and stuff, just take the photos that don't look the greatest and just keep it to yourself for a while. And then when you do reach the goal of, whatever it is, you go back and you're like, I'm thankful that I did this because there is a huge difference.
Yeah, oh, for
This
sure.
I had a lot to
This
work
was like
on.
your very first time even trying to pose for anything, and you had
Yeah.
put on this thing. This is like you just dabbling into what it means to be a wellness person. I was
competitor. Doing homework on this. I was just practicing the poses. All of this was self-taught. I was just trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt silly doing it a lot of the time, but I was like, really determined to get it down eventually. And I had no glutes.
So you did cut down for the showcase, and you did lose a ton of weight. And here's where you were.
So that is the
first...
end of the first cut of 2022 to 2023.
And you ended up around, so you went from in the 140s, I would guess, and down into 118 or so, right? That was around when you ended.
Yeah, so I think I was 143 pounds when I started the transformation challenge for the Zen Bro.
Mm-hmm.
143, and then I got down to 119.
And this
pounds.
is all between 2022 and 2023.
Yeah, so this was from basically I was cutting. I don't know when the Zen Bro started, but I was starting to cut. It was October.
It was a long cut. It was almost like a year.
It was a slow and long cut from October to June.
Right.
End of June. So I wasn't doing really any cardio. That was all diet.
Yeah.
So if you guys are wondering if you could get abs without doing cardio and stuff like that, it's possible.
I think, is this your progress from that time frame? Yeah. Well, roughly.
So yeah, just to show, I yo-yo all over the place. So at some point, I was 152 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is a pretty standard looking, chart for anyone who's cutting. So this is just this is how she was just dabbling, and we're going to get into the actual prep momentarily. So we wanted to do the first portion of this video was really just this is how Nancy got into the wellness side of things. And she had done some posing practice. This is for the Zen Bro, the Zen Bro initially, this video, right?
You should know the before that one.
This
you
one?
should show how bad my posing was before.
Okay, so this was
This
Nancy's
is me
posing.
trying to figure out posing. Oh, it might be loud. I don't know.
No, they can't hear it that loud.
Okay, so this is mid-cut. And I was just doing YouTube videos, watching YouTube videos, and trying to see what these girls were doing. And it wasn't too far off.
No, you're just figuring it out.
I had to figure it out. And then posing changes in bodybuilding quite often.
Yeah.
So this was some of this was acceptable, and now it's not. But anyway, I was trying to figure it out.
But eventually,
it's kind of cringe
you figured
to me,
it out because
but...
I think your initial posing routine from last year, while we decided you should wait on competing, it was still a good
It's like
showing.
a trial run.
This was like a trial run. That's the reason why
Yeah.
we do the Zen Bro, and that's why we do the Ape Classic every year.
I got more comfortable with it.
Is specifically for this. It's not just transformations, that's a big part of it, but for people who maybe don't want to go on stage or aren't confident with stage, maybe they want to do their mock prep, and they want to see what they look like, and then demonstrate their posing. It gives them a platform for them to do that. So this was Nancy's posing routine from that. Mm-hmm. Oh, it has to load.
So yeah, I was like 119 pounds
Yeah.
there.
And I had told her, I was like, you're gonna have to be dropping down to close to 110 with the muscle she had, and that was probably even a generous number
So this is the leanest I was
for that period.
for that period of time. That was, yeah, I never been that lean ever.
Yeah. Your glutes came up a lot. Look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was her first time really doing the posing, and she said, yeah, she started getting comfortable with it, and yeah, it was really good. But we decided, let's give it a year, because I think you were pretty hard set on getting a coach potentially, and doing it all out. And I was not ready. I helped you make the decision to let's hold off and let's do a growth phase, and then let's see what we do. Let's see how we feel in about a year.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
So, I'm always down to go all in on some stuff when I feel motivated. So, yeah, finally finish the cut for the Zen Bro. And I was like, I can do this. I know how to, I didn't do a full on bodybuilding prep, but I knew I had what it I could, take it to the next level if I wanted to. Because I made it that far or whatever. So I was all excited. And I was like, I want to get a coach. I want to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
When I guess, like, most people, I think, but like me especially, when I want to do something, I get like really serious and I throw everything into it.
Yeah,
I'm
both
like,
kind of that way.
We take everything to the next level. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But I was looking for a coach.
Yep.
I was telling you about all these different coaches and how I was getting all excited. And then you were like, you should probably give it a year.
Yeah. And one of the things that I wanted her to do was try to do it on her own before she got a coach. And a lot of people might not give that advice, but for us, it was mostly about saving some money, but also it's about like self-discovery and learning. And I feel like when you have a coach, you might get pulled into maybe a little bit of dogma, from the coach, depending on their mentality. And that's tough to get away from. When you see a bunch of different styles of coaching, right, in an online format, let's say, it's easier to make a decision on like what will work for you. Because a lot of things work in different ways, right? And I think eventually you kind of saw that. And eventually you said, okay, you can coach me. You're talking about me. And just so you guys know, I helped coach like Cool Runnings for his bodybuilding prep. And I have coached a couple friends. I've helped people through fat loss phases. And I've done both of my own preps in men's physique. So it's not like I'm not aware. I've been doing this for like 15 years. So I know how to get lean and I know how to peak. But I don't know if you were ready for me to actually do that, because I've never done it with a woman. It was new territory for me, but I was willing to learn and put my effort into it, my all into it, if she would give me that trust. So let's talk about that a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. So you have a lot of experience with bodybuilding and prepping, previous competitors, like our friends, like there's a bunch of people that you helped prep before in the past. And I've been kind of like doing homework in a way over the years and like watching other people, like women especially, do preps and stuff. So in my mind, I kind of knew what kind of coach I wanted or I didn't want. So yeah, I kind of had an idea. Like I didn't want somebody that was going to just be like, jump off a cliff and do it and don't question me. Like I definitely wasn't I knew I wasn't going to be like vibing with somebody like that. So, anyways.
Did you think that was going to be my style? That's the question.
Yes and no.
Mm.
So, if you guys know us at all, I don't like to be told what to do, especially with people that are close to me.
Daddy issues,
because
remember.
that's like another topic. But like, yeah, going back to family members telling me what to do. I don't like it. Like, and it doesn't matter what it is. It's like, it's an instant reaction for me is I'm like, whatever they say, I want to say no. I'm like, I just want to defy people that just because, I don't know, it's just an instant thing. I need to probably work on that. But so when you were offering me coaching and stuff, I knew you know your shit. It's just, I was afraid that I was going to be that way with you. And I don't love that about myself. And I really am working on it and trying to figure out why I do that. And it's not you. It's just what I do with people that are close to me. Mm-hmm. So I was afraid that that was going to be an issue. Me saying, no, I'm not gonna listen to you.
So let's just, long story short, she didn't decide to have me be her coach until she started prep. And it was like a couple weeks into her prep. So we'll talk about that a little bit. So we did do the Ape Classic. This was the second one. And we had
I started that already.
So we started the Transformation Challenge. So
this year's Transformation Challenge.
So there was a period of time between the last one and then the new one where we announced the Transformation Challenge, which was going to be a 20-week, a 15-week, and a 10-week transformation. We both signed up for the 20-week. We had taken basically the winter off. We went and did a vacation. We had like a little mini cut during the winter. But we had gained the weight back. You know, we both had gained a bit of weight. And I think you were like up in maybe in the 140s again, around 140 or so.
So we did a mini cut before Diabolic's wedding.
Right. But then
and then we gained weight, and then I gained weight back. Yeah.
And then we started the cut in April. So this is when she officially, and I think this is around when you probably decided to do a show. Was around the time we started this. So this is kind of when she was like, okay, she had dabbled with wellness. She had started this whole...
This is me yo-yo dieting back and forth. I have never stayed the same weight for like a decent amount of time. I'm always up and down.
Yeah. And this was the starting point again. And about 2 weeks after this, we had decided, I think you decided that you wanted me to coach you. And it might have been a little later than this, actually.
So... Yeah, a couple weeks after, maybe a few weeks after. No, when did this is April.
Yeah.
So this was mid-April when the transformation started. And then 17 weeks out, which was June.
Okay.
Beginning of June.
Right.
Is when I was sense. Like, you offered to coach me in the beginning of June because I was still looking for coaches. And I met.
So let's talk about that, Bruna.
So I got posing. I got posing lessons from a very well-known wellness bodybuilder. She is an Olympian. She just did her third Olympia recently. Her name is Bruna. And so this was in May of this year, and I got some posing practice from her, and she was like super sweet. She's very knowledgeable. We definitely vibed, and I was really excited to possibly get coached by her and her husband.
Right.
So I told Ari about this, and
I wasn't on board.
He wasn't on board, and we already decided that I was going to do this prep by myself or not get a coach. But I was still, I like having a coach. That's just, I feel better about it. Like,
So I don't know how the topic came up, but eventually we had a conversation about me coaching her.
He was like, I could just coach you. Because I was.
And you were hesitant, but eventually you were just like, okay. And I actually put my all into learning about the division, figuring out like your macros, figuring out like your training style, working with Sweet Lou and Diabolic a little bit, but Sweet Lou helped with the programming. And we discovered a way to coach you and just make you feel really comfortable.
Yeah, so I was hesitant also. Well, you offered to do the coaching when we were talking about me possibly getting somebody else as a coach. So you were like, I could just coach you. Like, I've done preps before, and I was hesitant because you've never prepped a female before. And I thought in my head you were going to be a certain way. And that was not the case. But I was like, okay, let's just try it. What's the, like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, let me just give you the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just trust you. Like, why not? And I was still hesitant in like probably the first month. I was like, I don't know. He's gonna tell me to do some crazy shit, and we're gonna have some issues. And no, it didn't. I was really surprised. This was like, I thought it was gonna be worse than it was.
Like it was better than you expected. It was probably the best outcome you could hope for.
Way better than I expected, because okay, so in the beginning of prep, we had some goals in mind. You were asking, like, I told you, I know I'm not going to build a lot of muscle during this prep.
And we actually did build some muscle, which was amazing.
That was like the cherry on top. But I was like, out of all this, what was our goals? I wanted to be conditioned enough for the division. We have seen together so many different bodybuilding shows, and I would always like think to myself, like, if I was to do one, I want to be conditioned.
Yeah.
Enough, or conditioned enough, but not look like I overdid the cardio. There is a certain look to some bodybuilders that they were doing too much cardio. Like, they were looking stringy, and I was like, I want to avoid the stringy look. So I was like, okay, I want to look conditioned, but not stringy on stage. And I want the glute ham tie-in to show, because I'm competitive. So like, I've seen a lot of analysis on the wellness division and the bikini division, and they're like, if you don't have it on stage,
don't bother.
Don't bother.
Yeah.
If you want to place, like, if it's a bucket list thing and you just want to do this for fun, that's a whole different story. But if you actually want to be competitive, like, you need to have the glute ham tie-in. So I was like, conditioned enough, and then that in turn would show the glute ham tie-in. So those were my two like biggest things.
So let me go and jump in here. So when I started taking on her coaching, and I knew those two must-haves, right? Need the glute ham tie-in, which we'll demonstrate and show what that is. I'll show you with the photos, but also having a good experience and getting like a good photo was another one, and making sure that you didn't look out of place on stage.
I wanted to at least be able to hang.
Right. So my whole thing, right, with preps and in general is, I think there's many approaches you can have. Mine is very straightforward, typically, especially early on during the dieting phase. So like, one thing that we did was, it was straight macros, and I had a goal of not letting her drop below 1,200 calories. We did drop a little bit at the very end, but 1,200 calories as a cap. I was not going to have her do a crazy amount of cardio. We actually didn't bring in cardio until like, it was like 6 weeks. Like 6 or 8 weeks out. Like, it's crazy. I was just
doing steps.
Yeah, I was just making her do 10,000 steps a day. She had 4 workout days a week, and she had like active rest days, right? But mostly it was very chill, and it was just hitting macros. It was if it fits your macros for the entire time. We weren't even meal planning or meal prepping, even though she was gravitating toward food she likes and foods that worked. We were doing that. Even in the beginning, she wasn't getting enough salt, for example, and her workouts were kind of suffering initially. So we bumped up her salt significantly, and she was having a lot of water retention, but her performance in the gym was significantly,
really
it got better.
Phased.
It got better, actually, because it went down and it came back. So she was hitting stuff, she was doing PRs, and her performance didn't even drop until we really started like chipping away at the calories. And that was literally just textbook track weight, drop calories a little here and there, track it for a week, track it again, check-ins once a week. We did a weekly check-in on Discord, and we did basically a recap every week of what we're going to do, modified workouts, and it was a textbook prep. Seriously, it's something I would do with other guys. It's something that I could do with anybody. And we did try other things. We tried carb cycling, but we realized, like, for her, for example, carb cycling does not work. So even though carb cycling is amazing for me, and it's something I rely on, especially for like, just feeling good, on certain days, it wasn't great for her. It was like making her feel bloated. She wasn't like dropping weight as fast. And we got her back on straight calories. We did a couple test peak weeks. We got her to flush out a bunch of water, and she started tightening up like the last 4 weeks pretty amazingly. So with that being said, and you kind of feeling the process and like seeing yourself lose weight, I think it was like around the 6, maybe 4 week mark that you were like super happy. You were like thrilled. Because at 4 weeks, she was like, this is a look I could step on stage with. And she was like in tears because we did a mock peak week and we got her down to basically her stage weight, which I was telling her, and I'm going to take over a little bit and talk about this because I think it's important. I will always tell someone, if I'm prepping them, that they're behind, that they need to do everything in their control to stay on top of it. It's a little bit of a mind game, okay? And it's not like a negative thing. It's just to get the athlete to be more focused and less I got this in the bag type mentality. It's like you put your head down and you're just working. And I think that's really what worked, because even at one point I told you you're behind, and I had you do your steps first thing in the morning, and she was taking a certain supplement, a certain stimulant that would help her with hunger cravings. And I had given her specific instructions for doing your cardio, getting at least half your steps in the morning, like 4,000 to 6,000 steps in the morning, first thing, fasted. And then afterward, taking your stimulant and then waiting a little while before you eat your breakfast, right? And she was slacking on that. And we had to have like a real heart to heart. And I was like, listen, this is like, it's been a week or so, and I'm noticing like you're slacking on these things. I'm like, if you want to do this and you really want it, my coach hat is on. It's like, you got to be doing this, you know? And I think you had that moment, you know, you said it in the car. You had this moment that you're like, yeah, I just need to do this and do it right. Talk about that a little bit, because I think that's important before we get into you tightening up.
So there's a lot of things going on there. So if you guys are familiar, like, you know, when you start dropping calories and you're hungry and you start getting emotional, I think your hormones are all like, my guess is your hormones are kind of all out of whack. So yeah, I was starting to feel like about 4 to 6 weeks out, even more guilty that I was so focused on this prep that I started to slack off, not a lot, but I was starting to slack off a little bit because I was putting other things first. Like there's things that need to be done at home, and I was doing those things first in the morning versus doing my cardio first thing in the morning, because I felt like I wasn't contributing. But you know, when you're in a prep, just being in a bodybuilding prep is selfish, like in a lot of ways. So I was starting to feel really guilty, and I was like, okay, I need, at least when I get up in the morning, I need to get these things done so I feel better about me doing this bodybuilding prep. I feel like I contributed to the household stuff.
And I was like reassuring you that you like, I'm going to handle it. I want you to be
100% in this. I got this. Yeah. Don't worry about it. But it was just me. For sure. Feeling guilty. So I was like, okay, let me get this stuff done first. And then you were like, you're not doing it the way I told you to do it. I told you I would take care of all these things. So I was getting emotional about it. And I felt I was really defensive about it, because I was like, I just want to be helpful. I don't want to be this asshole that's on prep and it's all about me. When it is, but you know, whatever. So I got emotional that day, and we had a talk. We didn't have an argument. We just had a talk. And I don't have answers right then and there. I have to like sit there and think about what happened and process it. So like I went to the gym after this conversation, and I started crying in the car, and I was talking to my phone, and I was having like a heart-to-heart moment on camera by myself, because I had to talk out my feelings. And I was like, okay, I need to get my shit together, because if I don't do it right, I got no one else to blame for other than myself. And yeah, you're putting all this work in. you know, and I was saying on camera, like, no one's suffering because of me on my prep, but like things are off because I'm on prep. So like for me to not put in 110%, like that's pretty fucked up, honestly. So, okay, I was like, okay, let me get my shit together. So after that heart to heart, I started doing what I needed to be doing. I was like a little bit more robotic about it. Okay, let me get up. I will do it like this.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was like about 4 weeks. 4 weeks out or something like that?
No, I think it was like 8 weeks because
something like that.
It was like 8 weeks
yeah,
out.
it was at some point
I
like
think
that. I was like, okay, let me stop.
Scorn asked in chat, like, what was the turning point? So I think that was a turning point for your prep.
One of the turning points. Yeah.
But I think another turning point. So I think once we sorted that and you really like dialed it in, it became less of a problem. You became like robotic with it, and it was perfect because you started seeing more results. We started dialing in the other things that we needed to dial in.
We had to figure out my sodium.
Yeah,
thing.
and we did figure that out.
Yeah,
right.
I'm sensitive to water.
We wanted to see. So we knew she was behind, but we wanted to see more definition. So instead of keeping her like bloated with sodium, we took a hit on some performance because sodium does help. Took a little bit of a hit because I think after we got rid of the sodium, you kind of felt a little more sluggish.
So we had like almost a plateau in weight for a couple weeks.
Like 119.
Yeah, so I've never been one to stall on weight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any metabolism issues. Like I've been like you guys.
It's been like 1.5 pounds like every week, almost perfectly. Yeah.
I yo-yo dieted all my life, and I've never really had a plateau with dropping calories.
Right.
So we were like confused about it, but I was over salting the fuck out of my foods.
We estimated she was probably at like 8 to 10 grams of salt a day, like really high.
Yeah, I was just all the salt.
To be fair, it's not really going to stop weight loss, or fat loss.
We were being a little too liberal with the salt. Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I think that was around the time we had done like a little bit of a test. So, the reason for the salt was I was feeling
like shit.
It was just performance based. Like I think when you were heavily salting, not only did it give you like a better mood boost because you're tasting better food, but you also had better performance in the gym by far.
Oh yeah, it was like a night and day difference. So, I was like, oh my god, like I feel so much better at the gym. Like I was less fatigued. The weight increased when the week before I wasn't having salt was like decreasing. It was wild. Yeah, salt makes a huge difference.
And then we did have to cut it. We did have to cut it down, and we did have to give you like restrictions on sodium a bit
because the weight was not dropping. Like the scale wasn't moving.
Right. So we did a little bit of that. We practiced a peak week, I think, and then you had a crazy whoosh effect, and I think you came
after
in at like
the first
mock peak week. You got down to like 115. Which was what we wanted you on stage. Was 115 was a minimum.
And that was 4 weeks out.
Yeah. So let me just go through and pull up at least so this was the after photo, because this was probably
that was 3 weeks out from
so this is about 3 weeks out. Let me just show you. So this is the after photo. No, this is 4 weeks out, right? Because
that's the Zenbro was 3 weeks
out. Classic. Yeah, the Ape Classic was so 3 weeks out. So this was her after photo. And we also did a posing routine, or we did some photos of her in her new bikini around this time. And she was starting to get a lot of detail like in her legs and in her midsection and things that she's never seen before. And it was a real this was the real turning moment for her, because then she could start seeing things like her tie-in in her pose.
That was the first time it was very detailed in the picture.
Going real close to your butt. Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get that close. Where'd it go?
What
happened?
I don't know.
I don't know what it's doing.
Okay.
But anyway.
That was the first time the lighting was good, and my glute ham tie-in was actually like
starting to come
pretty visible.
Yeah.
That was the first mock peak week. Yeah.
And we noticed that like you had very low tie-ins, which is
we didn't know that.
That's something
I've never been that lean.
Very sought after, like genetically. Like you don't just have that. You don't just work for that. That's something that's genetic.
A genetic thing. Yeah. So the top Olympians, a lot of them have a lower tie-in.
Mm-hmm. So if you
And
don't
I
know what
had
we're
no
talking
idea.
about, the lower tie-in, it's like this area, this little sharp area at the leg right here. That's where that is. That's the tie-in to the hamstring. So around this time is when I was like, okay, we can either coast into the show or we can dig deeper and get some more hamstring development. And we were playing around with posing styles and stuff, and we had to modify her posing. And this is something I did a ton of research on and I was doing a lot of playing with.
So he actually did a lot of homework with me. We watched YouTube videos together, and he was really paying attention to what these girls were doing on stage, and even stuff that I didn't notice. He was pointing out, and I was like, "Oh wow, that actually works."
I'll point them out while she's posing here. So this was like a couple weeks out, I think. So one thing that we needed her to do, specifically in her front pose, was not do what I call hot dog leg. So whenever you see a wellness competitor or any competitor who's in these types of shows do hot dog leg, it's where they let their quad get relaxed and it looks very smooth. So one trick you want to do is when you're posing in this way is you want to get a little bit of weight on that front toe, so that way the quad will actually have some detail. So if you can see here, there's some detail in her quad, there's a definition, there's some separation there. If she was not doing that, there would be no definition there. You wouldn't be able to see that it was muscle that she's showing off. Same thing with the side pose, was really exaggerating, pushing her hip out, so that way we can get more of the detail in the quad and hamstring separation between the leg. And then when she is doing her back pose, there's something specific that we had her do, and I call it bottom up. And what it is, let me go back to that so I can explain what we had her do. So when she gets into her back pose, what she is doing here, it's not just pushing back and just saying whatever. She's actually spiking her calves, leaning forward enough to get her calves activated so you can see more calf definition, which arguably doesn't matter in the division, but I said we should just go for it anyway. Make sure she's pushing back far enough to get the tie-in to show, which you can see it's clearly showing. And then also pretending slightly that she's doing a hamstring curl. And what that does is it gets more hamstring detail through. That's not something that a lot of pros even talk about in their posing tutorials. And this is something that no one even mentions. But when you do it, you can get a little more detail, and it actually fakes the leanness a bit. And arguably, I think it actually helped her with her placing. Because when you can do that and you can kind of fake those things, it just makes it look more detailed. It makes you look leaner. So these are things we were just playing with and experimenting with, and it was a few months of just testing and seeing how she looked when she got leaner. And yeah, I was super proud of how everything turned out when we were practicing.
Yeah, it was all coming together, and what works for me doesn't work for everybody else. So I think, would you say I
think you have to have someone who
what works for you.
Work with what works for you, but also have someone who has an eye for it to kind of walk you through it, because you're not going to know yourself.
Yeah, no, it's hard to tell on yourself what is.
And like I was saying, I was kind of talking about that whole dogma of presentation. A lot of people think you have to do it a certain way. You do not have to do it any certain way. You have to play to your strengths and fake it on stage as hard as you can. And that might mean doing unconventional things, like doing a little bit of a hamstring curl on stage, right? Like making things pop a little bit more by doing things a certain way. Even in her front pose, she does not have a traditional front pose. However, I did notice that her front pose, because she didn't have glutes, she did it in such a way where it was slightly more of a side pose. It made her quads look way bigger. So it was actually to her strength that she didn't have a traditional front pose, which is why I think she placed so well. So we got through it, right? We're practicing. Everything's working out perfectly. We did your mock peak week a few times. We're pretty confident. We noticed that we had to change a couple things around, but we get to peak week. You're basically looking great, and we're a week out from the show. And how do you feel moving into peak week?
How do I feel going into peak week? I was dead tired. I'm pretty sure most people that are in peak week, this is my first show, but I've seen a lot of people go through preps. They look and feel like ass, basically. I was so fucking tired.
Yeah.
I was like, on my, like, yeah, I was just like, the last, actually, yeah, peak week, I was tired as hell. But like the last 3 weeks, like when you went to, when you were out of town.
You went to San Diego, yeah.
Yeah, that is when it hit me.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, I am so tired. It is so exhausting to go down the stairs and bring laundry back up the stairs. Mm-hmm. Everything was so hard to do.
Last 3 weeks.
The last 3 weeks.
And that's very typical of a peak,
yeah,
right?
I was,
yeah. And very typical of prepping, yeah.
Yeah. So I never felt that in the cut last year. But yeah, the end of prep was like, I was so tired. I was excited. And I was like, I was feeling excited. Like I was talking about, I was getting emotional and stuff. Mm-hmm. I was crying all the time. I was crying almost every single day on peak week. But even before that, I cried like 10 times before that. Yeah. Not because I was like upset at prep. It was happy crying. I was just happy crying like all the fucking time. I was like, this is great. This is like the best thing ever. Like, yeah, prep like really changed me as a person, which is like weird to say, I guess, for people who haven't done it. But it's like, it was an eye opener. Like, I did this thing that I never thought I'd be able to do. The one thing was like, I wanted to do this 8 years ago and I never followed through. Mm-hmm. So I was very emotional about that. I was like, I finally am doing this fucking thing that I wanted to do for a long time. And then you were so proud of me. So I was just happy. Like anything could have happened on show day. I was like, I fucking finished prep. My husband is proud of me and he was behind me the whole entire time. Like I didn't even think it was going to work out. I thought like it was just going to be like kind of like a disaster. Like we have a great relationship, but like I didn't know, you know, like if, you know, you being my coach, like if we could go through all this, and we did. So I was like really happy about that. Like then I didn't think I was going to finish the show. I didn't tell people about this show, like where it was or hyping up the show too much because I was afraid that he was going to get sick in the middle of my prep and I had to stop. Like I didn't want to throw things out there just in case, but like for almost everything went as according to plan. Mm-hmm. And I was just very grateful. And I was like, yeah, whatever happens at the show is fine. I was just very happy. And I was getting more food on peak week, like more carbs and stuff like that.
For the end of peak week.
Yeah, so it was like, I wasn't starving. My sleep was shit. Like I think the last 2 or 3 weeks of prep. But yeah, I was feeling all sorts of emotions, but more grateful than anything.
Yeah, a couple of notes before we move on to the actual peak week and the show day. One big shout out is to my brother Brian. Roses McGee's in chat. He's a mod here. He actually flew out. We had planned this for a while, but he flew out to stay with Ben. Ben has
that was a big help.
Ben does have a very specific care routine, and he was here before in February to do that routine, and he only had 1 day here for your show, and he flew out and he was going to stay with Ben. We would have loved to have Ben come to the show, but it was a little far for him, and it wouldn't have worked out if he did have a problem. So he stayed home with Brian, but Brian stayed for a week. He hung out with Ben for that day, and we partied that after that, which we'll talk about a little bit. But
yeah,
big shout out to my brother Brian for coming out. He's a real one, and I love him for that. And he's a very reliable person. He's like one of the most reliable people we have in our life, and I really want to give him a shout out here.
Yeah, that was like freaking, it took so much off of us to like we were worried about like how that was going to work out on show day. Like, you know, if something was to happen with Ben,
you would have had to go there alone, and it would have been just me.
Yeah, it was out of town. Yeah, it was a couple hours out of town.
But like me being there and like walking her through everything was.
It made me feel so much more comfortable.
And we had friends come, but we'll get into that. So let's talk a bit about peak week and some stuff that people don't normally talk about, which is something that I think we should talk about, is yes, sleep is probably going to be a factor, and you can take some stuff provided it doesn't mess you up too bad. So I think you use like doxylamine, right? Or basically Benadryl type stuff.
Yeah, it was an over-the-counter sleeping pill. You get at any pharmacy. It just aids with sleeping.
Yeah, that was very helpful.
It was very helpful towards the end of my prep because I honestly thought my sleep was gonna be shittier way before.
Yeah.
But it was only I think the last 3 weeks of prep. So it didn't even take the recommended dosage. It was a quarter of the recommended dosage for the type of sleeping pill that I was taking. That helped, but I wasn't taking it every day. I was only taking it twice a week.
Yeah.
Just to kind of I don't even know if catching up on sleep is a thing, but I felt like I was catching up on sleep.
I think you felt better after you took
yes,
it, right?
A little more rest was much needed because
So that's one. Another thing which is super important that I think a lot of people talk about when they are peaking is water intake. So water intake is a big thing, and I had Nancy on about 1.5 gallons a day all throughout her peak week. The only time she really dropped water was she basically cut it off early on the Friday before, and then on Saturday of show day she just sipped water. And we did a very minor amount of sodium manipulation, really nothing. And she was basically just carbing up a bit and kept her fats low. She had a bit more fats earlier in the week, and that's all we did. And she came in almost perfectly peaked, I would say, for where her body fat levels were.
I already said, we already talked about it before, but this entire prep, you coached me along with Sweet Lou and Diabolic. For 17 weeks, right? And then I was maybe in total, maybe 24 weeks, something like that. But anyway, this entire prep was so conservative. You guys didn't do you didn't put anything crazy on me. I've seen people do 2 or 3 hours of cardio.
You did cardio
5 times a week.
Yeah.
I've seen people do it, and I was if I was gonna do any of that, I don't think I would have lasted. And it was just so.
We cut out your cardio. We cut out your.
You pulled my cardio 2 weeks before peak. I only did cardio for 6 weeks.
Yep.
And the most I did was 3 times a week for 30 minutes.
Yep. Yeah,
that was crazy.
You don't need to kill yourself on cardio if you know what you're doing with macros.
I was so surprised.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll talk about the actual show day coming up, but
we're getting there.
Yeah, okay, because but I didn't need any more cardio.
Yeah.
It was pretty much confirmed later.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So basically, we got you through that. The cardio was very conservative, like you said, and
it was so conservative.
I think that most peaks should be that way, and I think a lot of people do kill themselves. Basically, and they sacrifice lean muscle. They sacrifice lean body mass when you do that. So,
I mean, I definitely lost some.
You lost some, but you maintained and you grew your glutes, I would say. And your glutes are not your strong point, but they actually were not terrible. So they were way better than they were the previous year.
So during this prep, I grew a little bit in my glutes, which is
amazing.
Fucking phenomenal.
Yeah. Because that was the whole thing, was we're really nervous your glutes just were not going to be there, but they were fine. It was your legs were powerful and you did amazing. And we'll talk about the show day, but last thing I want to mention, and this is a gross topic, but I think it's important, is bowel movements. Digestion and bowel movements. So one thing that is pretty important, especially on peak week, is making sure you're getting your fiber in up to a point, and making sure you're pretty regular. If you're not, you will have issues with your digestion, a little bit of stomach distension, and it can really cause problems, right? So the whole idea with a peak week is making sure all those things are perfect. So we were pretty damn good on that front too. A couple of things we needed, like assistance, but other than that, pretty good. So I was really happy about that. And anyone who is considering doing a peak, or considering doing a show, that actually is a concern, and that is a part of this whole thing, is digestion and regularity, right?
So I didn't have any digestion issues whatsoever until maybe 2 weeks out.
Yep.
That's when the food was dropping more and more. We were trying to dig deeper to get some more lines come through. So I've always been one to make sure I have enough fiber. So before prep, I was usually eating 50 grams of fiber daily, drinking lots of water. So no issues with that. But like towards the end of prep, I would be lucky to get, I think, like 15 grams of fiber. So yeah, we were having some issues towards the end. So yeah, had some assistance, and we were trying to time it correctly, and we did time it correctly.
Yep.
So it worked out.
It did work out.
It did work out. But that's like, yeah, when you're really lean and you're on stage, we've seen it a bunch of times in plenty of shows, even probably at the Olympia. You could tell when somebody didn't poop that day.
Yeah, you could tell. You
could tell.
Yeah, it's gross. But so with all that being said, we'll just talk a little bit about how many carbs you had. So Nancy was on a very low conservative carb number. So I think we got you up to a little over 200 grams at one point in a day. And on show day and a little bit before the show day, I think it was still like between 150 and 200. I was playing it by ear. We were trying to keep her at a certain weight. And I think your weight was between 112 and 113. And we basically nailed it. I kept her there the entire time. And we just did that by giving her a little bit of water, a little bit of carbs to make sure it stuck, and then a little tiny bit of fat and protein. And we just did that every 3 hours or so with a certain amount of food, made sure she was maintaining and retaining a look. And on show day, even then, it was like an issue with bowel movements and with digestion, but it wasn't a problem because we were already there. That stuff would get cleared up in the following day, and it didn't mess with her look at all. So a lot of people, and I just want to say this, a lot of people who do these preps, they think they need to go ham on, like, hard on carbs and stuff. If you're a small woman, and you might have some muscle, you're not going to be absorbing and putting away 300, 400, 500 grams of glycogen, of carbs.
I wish.
I mean, it'd be great, but that's just not how it works. I mean, even I know that conservatively, my best bet would be like between 500 and 600 grams. That would be if I was completely depleted, right, for my size. It just depends on the person too. Like, it depends on what you can tolerate. But for most people, it's not that crazy. You don't need to go ham to fill out. So we filled her out pretty well. She was able to get a pump on show day. But now that we're talking about that, and we traveled, let's say, all right, so now we got through peak week. You got your posing attire. So talk about that a little bit. So you bought this new bikini.
Yeah.
So your bikini came in. We were afraid that it wasn't going to fit the first time. You had that whoosh effect. And it fit perfectly. We'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll get into show day with the tanning and all that stuff.
Okay, so I am a girl, and I love buying stuff. And show day was coming up, and I was getting really excited because I love the pageantry of bodybuilding. Like, I didn't go through it yet, but I was like, I know I'm going to love the fact of being all done up in a bedazzled bikini and all this. So I made sure that I ordered my suit at least 6 weeks out, because that was recommended for the type of suit that I got from this particular website. So rush delivered it 6 weeks out, made sure we had plenty of time just in case something was wrong with the bikini. I could return it or alter it or whatever. Anyways, got it in the mail, super excited, opened it, tried it on, or tried to put it on, and it was way too small when I tried to put it on. And
this is when we noticed the salt issue that we were talking about earlier.
I was like, what? It's not even close to being able to, like, close, because there's like hooks on it or whatever. And you were freaking out, and I was freaking out.
I thought it was way too small.
You didn't think that was ever going to fit me.
I didn't think so the first day.
In that amount of time. 6 weeks out. It's like, oh, fuck.
I also had no idea how much, like, sodium she had and stuff, because this was before I was really on top of her, like, meal prep. I was having her just doing macro tracking.
Yeah, we didn't even get into meal planning yet.
Yeah, we eventually got into meal prep itself, and then all that water came off.
You were like,
and it fit like magic. It was amazing.
Yeah, so we cleared out like a lot of the sodium for the next like day or two.
And you did a water flush a bit.
We did a water flush and it freaking fit.
Yeah.
Like 48 hours later.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So we were like, we had this aha moment is like, I'm very sensitive to sodium. Well, not very sensitive. I just overdid the sodium.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, we have to pull it back.
Yep. We pulled it back and she tightened up and yeah.
I was like super watery.
Even on show day, we got it down to like, you were in the mid, so it's an adjustable
There's like
strap.
Yeah, little hooks on it.
Little hooks, and it has about like an inch to play with on either side. So about 2 inches total to play with.
And there was like 3 hooks, one on the outside, middle.
I think there's 5.
There's 5, something like that.
But she was in the middle hook.
Yeah.
So you took an inch off of the max. So she can still grow an inch in her glutes or a little more. And still
wear it.
Because I think the next time you do a show, you'll probably be a little bit leaner. So yeah.
So a lot of these bikinis, I was researching different bikini brands and stuff like that, and a lot of them are specific to your measurements, and if you grow like a couple inches, you're not going to be able to wear the same bikini again, especially the bottoms. So this is why I went with this suit. Hopefully I'll still be able, well, kind of, okay, so I'm hopeful to wear it to save money, but at the same time, if my ass grows like 3 or 4 inches in a perfect world, then I'm all down for
to
get another bikini.
Hopefully get a sponsorship to get a new one. These things are fucking expensive, guys. Holy
$450, and it's a mid.
It's a mid-tier.
Mid-tier bikini. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mid-tier, like no, the quality is still great, but it's like
it looked great. Yeah.
Mid-tier meaning like not the most expensive. Right. Because the most expensive ones are like close to $1,000, probably $1,000.
Yeah.
$1,000. Yeah. Yeah. It's wild.
So so the bikini fit, which is great. Everything was perfect. She had her shoes. Everything was ready to go. Brian was here to take care of Ben. We were going to drive to the venue or to a hotel near the venue so she could do tanning. So this is the first time she's ever done an actual tan like this. And when she got her tan on, so it was a fast process. I thought it was going to be a lot longer than what it was. I thought they were going to have you dry and stuff.
So, yeah, we went to the gym. It was a base coat tan.
Yep.
So for this competition, because I think it's different for other companies and stuff, but you do the base tan the night before the show. And then
overnight.
Yeah, then it gets darker overnight. And then the day of the show, you get another coat of tan. And then they touch you up throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got the base layer.
Yeah, so
the night before.
I have photos, but she's actually fully nude because we didn't want to do any streaks or smearing with like underwear or anything. So she's wearing very loose clothing.
So it was advised not to wear anything tight after the tan.
It's pretty amazing. So we had someone in the Discord recently who's competing, Fit with Eric. He just did his tan. It's amazing how much
I have
tan.
A picture.
Oh, you do? I don't know if you can share it.
No. It's
you want to put it
I have a shirt on it.
Okay. So she got her tan, and it's the first time she got her tan, and we were in the hotel room, and we brought a light so we can like take some photos, and the tan really like changed her physique pretty good. Like her abs were popping, she had a little bit of like the there you go, that's pretty good. Can you upload that or send it to me, or can you put it in like the in your last folder? Put it under show day, and I'll put that one up. So she got this tan. Pretty amazing. Again, guys, when you do the tan, and if you're staying at a hotel, we had to bring like extra sheets to make sure we didn't mess up the sheets. We didn't get charged for messing up the sheets. We brought
the tan does come off pretty easily.
Yeah, it does come off easily.
But it stays on your skin forever after the show.
We also brought a cooler filled with food, all the food she would need. I prepped all of her meals for that next day. I didn't want her thinking about any macro tracking. I just wanted her to be in the moment and think about her stage presence.
You know, this guy like literally did like everything for me. He like cooked most of the proteins throughout the prep. I was so fucking tired. Like he did most of meal prepping and stuff. Like I'm so lucky that I had it this. It wasn't easy, but it was kind of easy. You know what I mean?
I tried to make it as easy as possible for her because this is
he
her
was
first
very
show.
helpful.
And you know, when I was doing my shows, I had to think about everything, and you know, it can be stressful. So I wanted her just to worry about, you know, stage presence, doing the posing, and just being in the moment with the whole show day experience. So the show itself, while I'm not used to this because we're from Vegas and a lot of the show venues in Vegas are a lot bigger and a little bit differently run. This one was done at a high school or middle school, one of them, and it was a really nice auditorium in Connecticut. And we went there, and the whole backstage was like the halls of the school. So it was a very unique experience because I've never done that before. But we were just hanging out in the back with all the other competitors. We met a handful of competitors back there who were competing with her. I met some guys who were doing men's physique and classic physique. So I'm a social butterfly. I talk to everybody. But we did meet a bunch of people, so that was really cool. That was a really awesome experience of just meeting people back there. And yeah, just making it just feel more familiar, you know, when you talk to people and, you know, you have your strategy basically down, there's no second guessing. It just feels easy. Like when we were there for that day, I had no concerns about what we were doing. Like everything felt perfect. I was just, hey, go do the glaze, go line up, do your pumping. We're a little late on the pumping because it was a little quick. But the next time around, it wasn't that bad.
The show ran really smoothly I've seen a lot of videos of like bodybuilding shows, like people like vlogging and stuff, and they're like, oh, there's a lot of waiting. But this one, it just kind of went pretty fast.
Yeah.
So the pump up was kind of rushed, but it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't really need to pump that crazy anyway. Like the only thing she needed to do is pump her glutes a bit because, you know, she had enough lines. We didn't want to blur any lines, and her glutes really are not her biggest attribute, but this is when she first got her tan, so things were popping pretty good. But she got on stage. Is there anything else you want to say?
And then I got darker.
Yeah, you got much darker. So next day, showed up, you did your pre-athlete meeting. I think you were starting to get like a lay of the land, you know, and you know, all that good stuff. You
we
did
like
the makeup.
to over prepare, so
we did over prepare.
We were trying to make sure we like weren't gonna have like any surprises on show day. So yeah.
So let me pull up. Do you have a video of your posing? Yeah, right here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
What? For a sec, I need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why are you whispering?
I don't know. I need to go pee.
Go pee. So we're gonna take a break. She's gonna urinate.
You could talk a little bit.
Yeah. And then we'll reconvene, and we're gonna go into the show day, how it went. Basically, just go through all the results, and then we will talk about post-show and what's in the future, what we're gonna do for her next growth phase and stuff. So just hang out for a minute. I don't think we're gonna be going for much longer than, I would say, 20 minutes. This is supposed to be like a 2-hour thing, so I was thinking between an hour and a half and 2 hours. So it looks like we're basically right on time for where this is going to end. So if you guys are still hanging out, thanks for hanging out. But yeah, this is a good experience for both of us because I've never coached someone like this. I've done like men's physique shows for a couple of guys, helped them with posing and dieting and workouts and stuff, but never went through the entire process like I did with Nancy because she lived here and I was literally living it with her. Like I was on stage with her when she was on stage. So the fact that, you know, we were able to go through this, it was like, it's very eye-opening, but also I know that we could do this again and we can kill it again. Like, probably even better than the last time, than this past time. And that's because I think I know how she operates. I know what works with her. I know what doesn't work with her. And I think if we were to do it again, I think it would be even better, for sure.
Yeah. You were great because, okay, like, I was hesitant because I was the first female that you've coached and stuff, and I thought you were going to be really militant. You are, but you weren't. Like,
we had our morning talks almost every morning.
We talked every morning. Yeah, every morning. We had a game plan for we always like to have a game plan for the day, for the week, and so we knew we were on the right page about everything. And I think that's really important for, well, you know, just for a relationship, but as a coach to athlete, probably is like, you know, make sure there's no
Yeah,
miscommunication.
there shouldn't be any second guessing. It should be very robotic. And the coach should be the one who's saying, hey, here's what you're going to do. I'm noticing this. Let's do this.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to be sitting there second guessing like your choices, right? And I don't think you ever had that.
No, and then I would always ask you.
Yeah.
Because, like, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And I wanted to make sure you felt confident. Even though I've never done this before, per se.
Yeah.
Like, in this way, I wanted you to feel confident that I was going to put my best foot forward to make sure this is the best experience for you, and we had the best look on stage that you could really appreciate.
So what I really appreciate about you is that this was just as important to you as it was for me.
Yeah, I felt like I was on stage with you.
Yeah, you were literally putting it in, like, you put more effort into it than, like, yeah, I knew you were going to put in effort, but, like, I did not realize how much effort you put into this for me. Like, yeah. That's why I was emotional all the time. I was like, oh my God, he's like putting in.
It's like I love you or something.
It is so fucking weird, right?
It's crazy.
It's like you love me or something. But no, seriously. It was like, of course, I mean, I knew I know you do, but like, it's just, this was next level. Okay, guys. So I appreciate you.
Yeah. No, I love doing it, and I want to do this again. Like, if you said, hey, I want to get a different coach, I probably would be butthurt, because I feel like we could, like,
anything we do,
we could do the Samson Dauda thing where I turn you into a pro and we take it to the next level. I feel like I have that intuition to this stuff, like, not to pat myself on the back, but I love this stuff so much.
Like, you literally,
it's my passion, you know what I mean?
Not just me, but like, like, details about a person that like nobody else sees, not just me, like anybody. And I'm like, it's yeah, you have a gift.
I have the touch.
You have the thing. Yeah, like, I'm not trying to butter you up, but kind of sort of, like, I don't give compliments out very often, so when I say something like that, like, I really fucking mean it.
The main thing I need you to have is just confidence that whatever we do, if it's gonna be another show or whatever it is next, like, if you need me to do it, like, I'm gonna do it all the way, as long as we're both committed.
You don't ever, okay,
right?
so
I don't half-ass anything, right?
You never half-ass anything.
No.
This is true.
Right.
Yeah.
So even the comeback to streaming, this isn't going to be half-assed. So it's like, all this stuff is going to be for a reason. Anyway, okay, so Nancy, we're backstage.
Yeah.
She's ready to go on stage. She does some pump-ups. I give her some, she got some chocolate in her. She got a little bit of Sour Patch Kids in her, a little bit of salt. And she gets a good pump. Her glutes get pumped up and stuff. And she does her first routine. I believe this is the first one. Oh, wait, I'm clicking on the screen.
So, wait. What does it say? I don't know. File. There's file names for it. Okay, yes.
This is Master. This is her stepping on stage for the first time. They call her out. Masters comes out first.
So this is Masters 35 and up. So this is a category where, yeah, you're 35 and older, and I was the only one that was 35 or older.
Yeah, she won it.
Oh, there was one girl. No, there was one other girl. She was 40 and older, but she didn't participate in this one. She decided not to.
Okay.
So there was one lady that was older than me.
So that was your first one. It was all a blur, I'm sure. But how did you feel about that? Just going on stage and posing. Did it feel natural? Did it feel scary?
So we practiced so much that I was on autopilot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so I went out on stage, I saw the judges, the stage is up higher than the judges are, like, in the audience, like, way below. So I look down, I see the judges, and the lights are, like, really bright on you, and then you see the audience, and, like, I was nervous, but, like, we did it so many times, we were like, okay, just go.
Yeah.
And we didn't know how much time we were going to have because we were doing a lot of homework, and we were hearing and seeing that you only get like 20 to 30 seconds on stage. So I was nervous, and also I wasn't sure if I was going to be rushed off stage. So my routine looked a little fast.
A little rushed, but I think we both understood that you were going to speed it up. But yeah, I think they would have given you as much
Yeah,
time as
no,
you
I
wanted,
think
'cause
if I took 30 or 40 seconds, they wouldn't have cared at this show. But it's okay.
So-
it worked out.
So they
Yeah.
basically have her come out. She does her routine, and then she does her quarter turns for the judges, and then they send her back, and then they bring her out between one other girl for the novice category, a true novice category.
So what is true novice?
So true novice is someone who has never competed before ever
in the NPC.
in the NPC. So
which is this federation.
we actually met the girl backstage. Like, she sat down next to us, and we introduced ourselves, and she was very nice. Cassidy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's actually posing with Nancy here. Very nice girl. And they both.
She's super sweet.
Yeah, they both did this true novice thing. By the way, shout out to Ray Bay and Diabolic, because Diabolic was there as well. And
Yeah.
he drove up, and Ray Bay, it doesn't live very far.
So Diabolic drove
He filmed this stuff.
5.5 hours and filmed all of these videos. And he was yelling out from the audience. He was cheering me on too.
So I don't even think, this is probably a blur, but I don't even think you remember standing next to another girl.
You know, you are so focused on what you're trying to do, you don't notice the person next to you. Well, that was me anyway. Like, other than, so that was true novice. So there's one other girl. I don't remember. Like, I remember her next to me, but that wasn't, like, obviously that's not your focus. You're trying to make sure you're doing what you need to be doing on stage. But that went by really fast. And then when I was with the other girls for novice, because this is a different class, I participated in 4 classes. So this was Masters 35, True Novice, and this is Novice. So this is girls who have never placed first or second in an NPC show. So for a lot of these girls, it could have been their first show. It actually was the first show of the girl I was next to right there. She won the class as well. That was also her first show.
So this girl in the blue, she won the whole show basically. She basically swept it.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting.
Obviously, she looked great.
So the thing that I want to reiterate here is when we went here, it was about getting a good photo and having a good look on stage. It had nothing to do with placings. So any place we got, we were going to be happy with, because it really didn't matter. It was always about the stage experience, looking like you belonged, getting a good photo, and just making it a good time, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And the fact that you know,
And
so
obviously try hard.
And this was a really good thing too. So if you notice, Nancy got moved out to the left, the far left, right? And then Cassidy's getting moved around into the other spots. So this is actually an indicator that Nancy placed last. So when she got placed on the end, I was like, oh, they're putting her in last place. Oh, bummer. But it wasn't a big deal. I was just like, whatever. I hyped her up. I was screaming at her. You know, I was telling her, I was giving her cues on stage. I was screaming.
Yeah, so
you'll hear me probably.
Yeah, so if you guys are not familiar, usually the girl in the middle is one to probably get first if they keep her there.
Right.
And then the ones on the outside are usually more towards the last placings, and then as you get closer to the inside, you're closer to first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they did put me on the outside on the left, which is last place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was screaming at her some cues. I don't know what I was saying. I don't know if you can hear me, but I was telling her, like,
you were,
show your, like, you have quads, show them, things like that.
Yeah,
like,
he was, crank it.
Crank it. Like, in this pose, I wanted her to, like,
You're
really
allowed
twist.
to say pretty much anything from the crowd.
Yeah.
There's no rules against that.
So at this point, after they started noticing Nancy, they started moving her around a lot more. So they were moving her basically from the far end to the second place. So that placing would have been like 4th or 5th place, something like that.
Yeah, so there's more. He got all of it.
I think he got all of it. So this is actually really cool because it was an experience to actually be moved around the stage, right? And get that kind of feeling of what that means.
That was a blur, kind of a blur, because I remember moving around quite often during this, but I didn't realize, like, in my head, like, where I was being placed. I just knew I was supposed to move. Yeah. And another big thing is you need to remember your number.
And if you look at the shapes of the girls, so if you look at Nancy, she obviously doesn't have the biggest glutes, but she does have a very good shape to her quads and her legs. And I think that was something that set her apart, especially with the detail in the hamstrings. So I think the judges were paying attention to that, which was very cool. Because when they started seeing her, they started moving her in closer and closer. And I was like, that is an awesome experience just to like hear the judges move you around. Because then you realize, okay, what am I doing in this pose? Like, how am I posing to make them see me more, right? So, and I know maybe you weren't doing that, but...
Yeah, they were like... My guess is they were interested in what I looked like next to other girls.
For sure, yeah. They were
trying to compare me.
Exactly. They were trying...
I mean... It was weird because it was obvious that after all this, because I didn't realize, but like they moved me the most.
Yeah, they moved you the most. You got moved from the far end to the middle. I mean, to the second end. Now you're almost in the middle. Next to the girl
they moved me around the most. I didn't even know that until afterwards, because like I was so nervous, and I was just trying to remember. I was trying to listen for my number, because I've seen so many videos of girls not knowing their number and they just stand there. I was like, that's not gonna be me.
Yeah, you didn't want to be that girl. Yeah, you're posing. Everyone's posing. I didn't see anyone who had like a problem posing.
You know what? These girls, all of them.
That was the other thing too. It
was weird.
Yeah.
All of these girls looked fucking
amazing,
phenomenal.
Yeah.
They all look like they belong there. They all look like wellness. Yeah. I was like. I was trying not to get in my head about it, but I was like, oh my God, all these girls look so freaking good.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have been a disappointment. Even if I was last, I would they all looked like they belonged there.
But I think one of the things that we both talked about was you going up against girls who are the same caliber or similar caliber. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
So that way you can know if you do belong.
Yeah.
If you walked in there and everyone was soft and no one showed up like ready for a show, you would feel bad if you just won it. Because you'd be like, well, now I don't know how I compare, really, right?
Because you went through a show.
Yeah, and where
it was only you and one other person, so you wish there was more competition for you during that one show. So you didn't want that for me. You wanted me to be like, okay, there was enough girls, and I knew what I needed to work on,
right?
Or what I was good, where I was good at. Yeah.
And this video is where they kept her in the second place spot. So, you know, whatever the judges saw, you know, they really liked about Nancy, you know, to have a second place, you know, finish, which and this is pre-judging. So I told Jason, Diabolic, I said, she's either second or third, you know, depending on how they see it, because they put her close to the middle. So I was like, if they do comparisons at night, we have a couple tricks that maybe she could do.
I didn't even realize that was going to be
so she was put in a really good position to be second or third. And we had this idea that they maybe were going to do comparisons at night, but they do not. They just basically give you awards, but we gave her a bunch of tips for if they did comparisons to like help her maybe with placings. And I was like, let's see if you can like make the judges feel like you can, you know, move up. Because we already set out to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish just stepping on stage. So now we know you're in second or third. It's like, okay, maybe you can increase your placing. And if you don't, you don't. But let's just see if we can try new tricks for the night show.
Yeah, we were hoping for another comparison round, but it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
It was but it was fine.
It was fine. Yeah. So we're just gonna play through all these videos through the night show, and then we'll go to the photos of her placings.
And then there's a finals video too.
Okay.
If you want to show like how I hardened. No.
Okay.
Oh, there's another video.
It's not in here.
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they still have Nancy. I think they move you around here. So this is open. So the other one was novice, and now this is open.
So these are girls that. So there was 2 classes. This is class A. So from my understanding, it is girls that are 5'4" and under.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So this is the open class.
Right.
For class A. And there's another class where you don't see some of the taller girls because they're in their own class.
So Nancy switches with her. And I think this is kind of where they keep you.
Yeah, I didn't move that much for this one. Yeah.
I think you kind of stayed next to the girl who swept it.
Yeah. But this one went by faster. The true novice one was really like it felt like forever. So it was interesting because for these shows or whatever, you prep for, let's say 20 weeks, but you're on stage for 15 minutes.
Yeah, maybe. Tops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This will probably be the longest time I have on stage. If I want to do another one or if I do multiple
For
ones,
sure.
this will be the longest time I'm on stage in one day, probably forever.
Yeah. Agreed.
Because I did 4 classes, I won't be able to do True Novice or Novice again.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, you only be able to do Masters and Open.
Yeah.
Right.
So this was.
Well,
glad.
Couldn't you do Novice or no? You can't place first or second.
You can't place first or second.
Okay, so you
So
basically.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
She graduated from Novice.
So this is the most stage time. So you have to pay for every class that
It's
you
expensive.
It's expensive, but for the experience, I think it was worth it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I'm glad that I signed up for all 4.
Yeah. And
despite how expensive it was.
Yeah, and I'll just say this, for her look, like, this was the best outcome. This was even better than expected because she came in tighter. She came in at a lower body weight, which was huge.
Yeah, we thought it was going to be 115.
Yeah, so you're down to like 112. At one point, your lowest is like 111.4 or something.
I did hit 111-ish.
Yep. So the fact that we were able to do all that was a huge win. And then the stage time, and getting that look on stage for that period of time is great. And then eventually we'll talk about judges' feedback and what we're going to do moving forward. But we'll get through the rest of these videos.
That's finals.
So this is the finals video. So if you could see that Nancy did get a little bit harder. I don't know if you remember from the earlier video. But when she...
It's not a long video.
Oh, I thought it was going to be longer. Okay.
Nope. That's
but Nancy did get a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And tighter for it in the night. So this is Nancy winning the True Novice class.
So this is finals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, it was good that they did it like that.
Yeah. It doesn't get audio either, and I have it really low.
Oh, okay. But it's fine. It's actually better though.
Yeah. So she got that. So we'll go through. So Nancy won. She got her first in Masters, obviously.
I was the only competitor.
She got first in, you against one other girl, which is cool. But
True Novice. Yeah, right.
That's cool. And then she got second in Open and Novice. So
Novice was against 7 girls, and Open was against 5.
yeah.
So
while it's
totally
all pretty sweet,
not bad.
Yeah, and again, Nancy mentioned it before, but this is really. A lot of this is because we work for Ben, and this was like a thing of love for Ben, dedicated to Ben, and there he is wearing all your good.
Oh, getting emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah. During prep, I was like, why do I do this? Why do I get up in the morning? Like, so many reasons, but.
Yeah.
Other than you, it's for Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can imagine, we don't have children, but that's the same feeling parents have for their kids. Yeah. Yeah, you do stuff for your family. Yeah. And even though it's just kind of, to a lot of people, just a bodybuilding prep, it I grew as a person because it made me realize I could do really hard things under a lot of stress, and it really tested me, and it tested our relationship.
Yeah.
We already have a really close relationship and we have great communication, but it still tested it. Mm-hmm. And it's man, if we can get through a freaking bodybuilding prep while I'm eating 1,200 calories and doing all these steps and taking care of full-time taking care of an adult human being and freaking doing the things that we do because we're always trying to do stuff nonstop, we could do anything.
Yeah, sure.
And
it was good. It felt good.
Yeah. And then I was when I was finishing up this prep, I was so what is the next thing? And I was telling you, which is funny, and I think I've talked to some girls about this already, and you understand too. I even said to you before prep was over, I was I'm afraid of prep being over because I'm so used to being so regimented and like, yeah, you're like a robot towards the end, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not the hunger or anything like that. You just have a plan every day and you execute it.
And then when you don't
every
have that,
day,
it's almost like you're
when
lost.
you don't have it, you're lost. So I was like, I'm actually afraid of prep being over. Like, I don't want it to be over. And then we talked about, well, we got to figure out the next plan. And also, like, your hormones are going to be out of whack after prep. Like, a thing called, you know, post-show day blues and stuff like that. Like, you might experience depression and feeling like you need a binge and going all crazy and feeling all kinds of feelings and like feeling like everything's over already. So yeah, I had to prepare for all that. Yeah, but
I think you're pulling through pretty well, and we have a plan, and we do have a plan.
Yeah.
So one of the plans, so I'm gonna go through these photos
go
real
ahead.
quick.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the plan that we have. So just to reiterate, so Nancy did have a really good showing. The photos turned out great. You could see that her glutes aren't the biggest. That's the big thing that we're going to focus on in the off season and the improvement season. And we're going to take it very slow. We're not going to binge eat and go crazy. We're trying to get her to, she did have a week of eating whatever, and it was a lot of fun, but it's out of your system.
So yeah, my birthday came
during prep. So we didn't celebrate.
So I waited. We didn't celebrate like we did, but we didn't. We didn't celebrate like we usually would. So I waited a month later to celebrate, and then his brother came out to watch then. So we all celebrated after the show. So for a full week, I got it out of my system. I ate all the foods, and I went crazy.
Yeah. So just again, so for her show day, like again, we got great photos, which we weren't sure if we would, but we got great photos. She has great hamstring, like when we were talking about the little hamstring trick. Her hamstrings are coming out here, and that wasn't something that we really had pre show day. So it was pretty dope. Wingnut asked, how dried out are you for show day? So she's not really drinking much water at all. So she's pretty...
Just sipping water day.
But she doesn't dehydrate up to the show. It's just show day that she's not drinking a lot of water.
I still drank 1 gallon the day before. So I cut my water off at like 5 p.m. We didn't do anything crazy because there's like some bodybuilders out there that will dry out like to the extreme. But we went conservative for me. I didn't have to do anything crazy.
Nope. And like I said, like really good turnout.
Good photos.
You know, her legs look massive on stage.
You know, it is so crazy.
Which is awesome. So I can see why the judges look at this and they're like, holy shit, her quads are insane. They're hard to deny. Honestly, your quads are hard to deny.
It is so crazy. I look at these photos still. And I've been looking at these photos like, you know, every day. It's only been a couple weeks. But I'm like, is that fucking Photoshop? It's weird. It's like, I don't see that on myself. Well, not anymore. I'm not show lean anymore, but like, I'm like, I can't believe my legs look just as big as all the other girls' legs.
Yeah.
It is, my mind is blown.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it was a great showing for you, like I said. And I think like, you know, for example, like we were talking about earlier, her front pose is different from other girls, but it showcases her quads more. Like in this, you can see she's posed a little bit differently than the other girls, which initially I was like, maybe it's not a good thing. But now that I look at the photos, I'm like, it makes your quads look a lot bigger than if you were doing the front stance without the flexing. Like even
so that's a good photo. That's why I picked this photo.
This photo, you can really see the size of her quads. It's like they're almost as big as this. She's an IFBB pro, and they're almost as big as her legs.
Yeah,
it's wild.
She's a figure pro.
Yeah. So it just goes to show you, like, you can have all this body dysmorphia, you know, pre-show, and you're never really going to know how you stack up or how you look until you get on stage and you get photos and you see what's going on, right? So you always, and this is what I was saying before, you always go in with the mindset of being surprised and just having almost no expectations. And when you can do that, like, it just makes it so much more fun. Because then if you're pleasantly surprised, or even if the outcome isn't, like, great.
I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, you'll still get great photos, and you'll meet good friends along the way. Because, you know, we're basically, all these girls here, like, now we have them on Instagram. Sweet. They're really nice. In fact, this girl on the right, she lived in Tampa, and she had to go back to her home, which had the hurricane coming. She had to evacuate her house out of Tampa a couple days after she got home. And then she had to prep for she's doing another peak week because she's doing another show this weekend or something tomorrow.
Yes.
So it's
I
wild.
was talking to her.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and I hope she does really well.
Yeah, she was really nice.
She's been going through it, so I hope she kills it tomorrow. Yeah.
So it was just an overall really, really good experience, and I think that moving forward, now that we've gotten this first one out of our system under our belt, I think it's safe to say that you do qualify for nationals. So
so I didn't think, I thought I did, and then I didn't think I did, and then Diabolic did confirm after the show that second place you can still go to nationals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the idea is
I don't know.
We were thinking if we can have a really solid growth season that isn't outrageous as far as putting on body fat and really push it and try to get her glutes and her legs even bigger, like putting on some solid size, which we haven't really tested a solid programming like we did for her for her prep, because her prep actually was way more bodybuilder style than anything she's done before, which is why I think she kind of grew her legs during prep.
I've always said I would, but I never have actually focused on my glutes.
Until your prep.
Until my prep.
And
I actually never did a solid
and
program.
We discovered 3 exercises or 4 exercises that are amazing. One of them one specifically is a Smith machine kickback. It's like a froggy style kickback, which you've seen her do before.
That works for me very well.
So there's a lot of movements that we're going to experiment with and help her to grow her glutes and her legs even further. So potentially, if we can grow them, we could try to make a run for nationals. It is not a great likelihood. It's not super high likelihood, but if we're feeling confident, it's possible. We can make a run for it last minute.
Yeah. Because, at the end of the day, there's a whole different, there's a bunch of stuff so once you qualify, which now I do for nationals, you only have about a year.
Right.
You can't wait 2 years. Mm-hmm. So if I waited 2 years, I have to do another local show and place first or second again to qualify for another national show. So there's a time frame on it, which it doesn't matter because whatever happens. We take care of Ben. So he has a lot of health issues come up all the time. So we don't know what that looks like. We don't know what the future holds for that. So that could, be a wrench for some stuff. And then we want to work on other things. And I think I took so much, like I said before, for me, I felt really guilty taking so much resources
but
on myself for something like this.
If I could do it again, the way we did it, I would do it again. I wouldn't mind doing it. I mean,
it takes a lot.
Provided maybe we had a little bit of a sponsorship or some way to pay for the contest, because they are pricey.
That's probably the biggest thing is that so bodybuilding competitions are not cheap.
Right.
You have to pay for entry, especially for women. You have to get. You don't have to, but it is like pageants. You should look a certain way.
Yeah, you should do it right.
You should do it right if you're going to put the money in and the time in. So makeup, tan, bikini, and then just supplements and food alone is really expensive. So just all of that combination of stuff, it's a lot to think about. In a perfect world, would I want to do this again?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was like, you have to do the show first to see if you want to do it. I always knew, I just love competing and I love being on stage. And I like to surprise people. So I knew I was going to love it.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, let's wait and see. But would I do it again? Absolutely. Yeah. I love performing and doing the best of my abilities.
So getting on stage to be determined, getting back on stage to be determined. But
we got judges' feedback too.
Yeah, so judges' feedback was funny. What I told her before any of this happened, weeks before, I said the best thing we can get is you just got to get bigger. Conditioning, we don't want to hear anything about your conditioning. We don't want to hear anything about we don't want to hear anything about your posing. All that stuff
presentation
should be in our control and we should be able to nail.
Yeah.
The only thing that we cannot nail because we're so close is getting bigger.
How much muscle I had.
How much muscle you are.
I knew this going in. I don't have a long history of bodybuilding.
Right. And what was the judge's feedback?
So I asked the head judge of the show what I could work on and, stuff like that. So he replied, "Hi, Nancy. Congratulations on competing in your first show and placing so well. Glad you had a great experience. Your conditioning, presence, and posing I thought were really good. Going forward in wellness, which I think you can do really well in, would like to see you add more muscle in your glutes, hamstrings, and quads." So I'm hoping that's in order. Probably in order.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of what I need most.
Right.
So...
yeah, glutes,
conditioning,
obviously.
posing, and stage presence.
Nailed it.
Yep. So I was like, yes. I wanted that to be like a no issue thing. Like, yeah, came in looking polished.
Right.
And then, yeah, he said, I'm going to take it as what he said. He thinks I could do well in wellness.
Yeah.
So I was like, he didn't have to say that. So I was really excited about that.
Yeah. Also, they want you to keep paying for shows. But yeah,
sure. Take my money.
so it was exactly literally that confirmed that it was exactly what we wanted to get out of this show. The show was perfect in almost every way. It was perfect. So you should be really proud of yourself. I know I'm proud of the work we did, and I think if we wanted to do this again, we can accomplish it. And I think
we have to grow.
We got to grow. Let's see how we can do over the next, year or so, or 8 months, 10 months, see how big we can get. And let's just keep hammering it. So yeah, I don't think we had a ton of questions on chat, but thank you guys for hanging out with us. This went just about as long as I expected to go, just about 2 hours. And we're going to have this uploaded onto YouTube. I'll probably cut it down a little bit. But we went
a little long.
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube, maybe an hour and a half. It might even be closer to the 2 hours. I might just throw it up.
I don't know.
But I think the information is good.
You probably could, but yeah, I'm glad we recapped it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, yeah, super supportive husband / coach / chef. What else? Nutritionist. What else? He was a music video producer because he took a video for my posing routine for the APE Classic this year. Like, yeah, he does it all. And
I try. I'm a try hard.
You are a try hard, and you know your shit. And like we always say, you don't ever half-ass anything. And you are like literally the most helpful person ever. Like, not to just me, but for everybody.
I try.
Yeah. You can kind of come off like, blunt to the point, which I appreciate because nobody has to ever know what you're actually thinking, right? But you're not for somebody that's very sensitive, but it always comes from a good place. It always does. You never do it out of like, you never say anything to be malicious unless you're really, really mad. But I
can have daggers. That's true.
Yeah, your tongue is like daggers, but that's very rare. Other than that, it always comes from a good place.
I'm very proud of you, and I'm happy to do this. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think it
worked out so well.
I think you did amazing, and I don't think you should feel guilty about what you accomplished. As far as the house stuff, like it's ridiculous. I can, I can accomplish a lot and do a lot. So
listen, like, yeah. So another thing I want to work on. So after prep is over and stuff is like I was thinking towards the end of prep. Other than the building up and being bigger for the next show or whatever, I was like, you did so much for me, like. How can I be a better wife? When I was thinking about prep, I was like, how can I be a better wife, a better sister-in-law, a better caregiver, a better daughter, a sister? Like, this prep, like, it's crazy how much thinking I did because I didn't have the coping mechanisms that I usually do. Like I usually would get a glass of wine if I was stressed out, or I would eat a pizza or something when I was stressed out. Like I had to deal with a lot of feelings during prep and talk it out or write it out or something. And yeah, like there's a lot of things I still need to like work on and, you know, overcome and stuff. But like this made me a stronger person in so many ways. And it's like, I'm so happy we went through this.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, life-changing.
I enjoyed it.
Seriously life-changing.
I really did enjoy it though.
Yeah.
I thought this was fun. I enjoy this stuff, especially when it's successful. So.
You know, yeah, so prep is hard, but like it could have been worse. And if we had to do it, if I had to do exactly like this again to be better, sign me up for it. Like it wasn't that bad. It's like I didn't want to be burnt. Okay, another thing is I didn't want to be burned out on the cardio and the nutrition and like me ending up hating it.
Yeah.
And not wanting to do another show again. I wanted to enjoy it somewhat.
And now that we know how you can prep and how conservative we can be,
we don't have to go crazy.
You can have a stellar off season, grow, and then we just hit it the same way. And you'll show up on stage probably even better because you won't have as much fat to lose.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually had to lose over 30 pounds. I think 33 pounds. I don't want to lose another 33 pounds. So we're going to do it better next time.
But yeah, I'm really happy. So this is good. And I think this is a really good recap. I think a lot of people who might watch this might get a lot out of it, you know, understanding what we do.
Yeah. There was no crazy tip or trick or secret to this prep.
Secret. Nope.
There's no secrets. It was just like
just standard
stuff you could find out on your own if you do your homework. Like not magic. Like
just do your homework.
I'm a normal person. I'm not anybody like special.
You're Nancy.
I am Nancy, but I'm not that special.
You ain't that normal.
I'm not normal either, but I'm not that special. Like, I mean, I'm 37 years old. Like, I have some fitness background, but like, man, if I could do it, like a lot of other people can do it if they really want to try for it. So, you know, but yeah, I want to get healthy. For me, like my hormones are a little out of whack from doing a prep. Like bodybuilding is very extreme.
It take a little bit of time.
Yeah. You know, you can't stay lean like that. You can't be so lean all year.
No.
Not healthy.
Right.
Yeah. So I want to put that out there too, is like, it looks all glamorous and stuff, but like it is not healthy for all year long.
Right.
Like very important for me to say. Like I don't want to put it out there like, you know, it's cool and, you know, there's no downside to it. There are some downsides. Yeah. So, you know, do your research also if you want to do something like this. But overall, had a great experience.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, with that, thank you guys for watching. And we'll catch you next time. Make sure you join the Discord. If you're into the aesthetic physique enthusiast stuff, we have a Discord you can join. There's going to be links down in the description. It's going to be on YouTube and stuff, so make sure you check it out. And follow Nancy, follow me, follow the Ape Instagram, and all the good stuff. And we'll catch you guys soon.